everyone, welcome back. This is Miss Norma, and this week we are gonna go and find out what the difference is between a private university and a public university. So let's start off with a private university. So what makes a private school different? So a lot of private universities have smaller class sizes. Students generally build stronger, more personal relationships with their professors and instructors because of the smaller class sizes. There sometimes are created towards certain populations, which can help students develop a stronger sense of community. Tuition, which is one of our vocabulary words that we've been using throughout College Bound, which is how much it costs to attend the school, usually does tend to be more expensive at a private university, but also they do have a lot of scholarships that they offer based on the need. And then some have prestige attached to their name and an extensive alumni network that could be beneficial in your future. So once you graduate, a lot of the times you have a connection with a person that went to the same college as you do, which sometimes will help you connect with employers or just, in general with people. But that's the main reason why you would want to network with someone. So the drawbacks to a private university is that the admission standards could potentially be set higher with higher expectations of their students. Often the admissions process involves an interview in addition to essays, test scores, letters of recommendation, and your GPA. And also the price can be hard for some students' budgets, but they do offer financial aid. So public universities do not require an interview at all. We'll go over that a little bit when we go over public universities in California. So that is one of the drawbacks as far as, getting into university. They tend to make it a little harder for you to get in. So you do need to be a lot more competitive than a public university. Not all privates are that way though. Some privates are actually a little easier to get into. It all depends on how prestigious the university is. So a couple of examples, and I know that I mentioned this before, but what private universities can do is that they could actually be affiliated with certain religious groups or certain specific fields of study, or they may be exclusive to women, men, or military personnel. Because they are private, they don't have to follow government guidelines. They don't have to be kosher about that kind of stuff. And here are a couple of the examples for private universities. So LMU, Loyola Marymount University, Stanford, we have Harvard, Howard, USC, and the University of San Diego are all examples of private universities. For the ones that are here in California, you'll have LMU, which is here in the LA area. USC is also in the LA area, and then you have Stanford up north, and then you have University of San Diego down south. So these are a couple of the examples of a private university. So what is a public university? So the difference with public universities is that they do tend to have higher number of students in their classes, often upwards to 200 to 300 students, can be arranged in one lower division class. So usually when you first start and you're taking your general ed courses, which is your first and second year of college, you will most likely be in a bigger room. UCs tend to have a higher class size than Cal State's. So you do have to be the one to make the effort to get to know your professor, go to their office hours, and make sure that you make a mark in their memory, because later on when you want to apply to graduate school, you want to make sure you have those recommendation letters from those professors that remember you. Public universities often have lower tuition than private universities because public universities do receive funds from the government. It does subsidize the amount that they're able to charge. So also public universities are much larger and more diverse than the average private university, and students may feel more comfortable on a large student population that it offers. So that there does tend to be more diversity at the public universities, and a couple of we in California we have two public university systems, which is the UCs and the Cal State, so University of California system and the California State University system. I'll talk about it a little more in a bit. Let's talk about the drawbacks first. So some public schools may not have the same prestige as private universities. And if you don't know what prestige means, that's kind of reputation. So they may not have the same reputation that a private university has. The large student atmosphere may distance students from their educational atmosphere, and it could potentially lead to feeling anonymous among the student population. So like I mentioned, you see the picture there, that's how big a lecture hall is at a public university. But like I mentioned, it's up to you to make your mark and make sure that you are memorable and that you are making that effort to get to know professors and TAs so that you are remembered. It's what you make of it and not what is given to you. So you really got to put yourself out there. So some public schools, because they depend on government funds, are becoming at times just as, if not more expensive than private schools. So what this means is that because funding keeps getting cut by the state to support public universities, obviously the university needs to make up that money somehow. So that cost is being transferred over to the students. But that should not worry you because there is financial aid available federally and statewide. So there's lots of options for you to pay for college. And the one thing that I will tell you guys is do not be afraid of student loans. They're not scary. They have low interest rates as long as you only accept the amount that you need. And that's a common mistake that a lot of students make. They are like, oh, they're giving me all this money. Great, I'm going to take it all. And then they go shopping and then they buy a car or they do whatever they want with it because technically the money is yours. Once you pay for tuition, you have all this extra money. But that does not mean you have to accept it all. You only can accept what you should accept so that you don't have a bigger debt when you graduate. That's a little piece of advice for you guys. If you remember something from these meetings with me, remember that piece. Okay, so some examples of public universities, obviously anything that has state in it. For the purpose of here in California, we have California State Universities and University of California systems, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Make sure you pay attention to this. I didn't put a slide in here for it, but I'm going to throw some facts at you about them, and after this, I'm going to put the link down there for you guys to do the Kahoot, and make sure that you, once again, type in your full name so that I know who you are and you get the credit for doing the Kahoot and watching this presentation. So UCs, which is the University of California, and California State Universities, which are CSUs, that's what I'm going to refer to them from now on. UCs, there are 10 total UCs, but only 9 of them serve undergraduate and graduate students. When you go straight from high school, you're considered an undergraduate. Your first 4 years while you're working on your bachelor's, you are an undergraduate student. When you're working on your master's or above, you're a graduate student. So remember that fun fact, okay? So there are 9 undergraduate UCs and 1 that's only for graduate school, which is the University of California in San Francisco. And there are schools all the way from the top of California, which is either Davis or Berkeley. I can't envision the map in my head. And then all the way down south to San Diego, which where I attended. Duh, if you don't know that by now, you haven't been paying attention. And what's unique about the UCs is that 8 out of the 9 campuses, undergraduate campuses, are on a 10-week quarter system. So you know how you all have semesters. So you guys go to school from mid-August to the end of, mid-December, and that's a whole semester. So at these 8 UC campuses, we have a quarter system. So that means that we go to school for 10 weeks and we learn about a subject for 10 weeks, and then on the 11th week we take finals, and we have 3 of those a year. So you have fall quarter, winter quarter, and spring quarter. A lot of people think that it's too hard. I personally really liked it. I don't feel like I can learn any other way. When I think about semester, I just feel like that's such a long time for me to remember what I learned the first week versus what I learned the 20th week. So I like the 10-week system. It does go fast for some people, but it is what it is, and you learn everything. And I think for me, the 10 weeks, it really helped me to maintain the information so that I was ready for the finals during the 11th week. So UCs are actually harder to get into. They're more competitive. And the application process, obviously, the GPA requirement is a little higher. You must have at least a 3.0 to apply to a UC. It actually won't let you apply if you have below a 3.0. You have to have a lot of leadership experience with clubs. You have to answer personal statement questions, 4 of them, short answers, but still they want to know more about you. So you have to link those essay questions to your application, your experience throughout high school, and they want to know how you're going to fit into it. When we focus on UCs, we'll go over more in detail what those are. And then the other difference is that they are more expensive than Cal State's. So for UCs, if you are, tuition for a UC is $14,000 a year. That doesn't include books and supplies or room and board, which is a dorm, or transportation. So tuition alone is $14,000 a year. Okay. For Cal State University CSUs, there are 23 CSUs in California, and that is the same way. They go from top to bottom, east, west, all over California. They are in the city, they're in the rural areas, they're in the mountains, they're everywhere. And they do tend to have smaller class sizes, but the only difference is that they have more of a commuter culture, which means that a lot of the students that attend Cal State tend to live at home, and they don't live on campus, so they just kind of drive from their house to the school. So there isn't a lot of school spirit, as opposed to a UC where you get a lot more students that are coming from different areas and have to live on campus. Therefore, there's more school spirit at UCs. And then the other difference is that you only need a 2.0 to go to a CSU, but you do need to have a higher SAT score, which is the eligibility index. So if you go on their website and you type in what your current GPA is, it'll tell you what SAT or ACT score you need to get in order to qualify to get into the school. So I believe if you have a 2.3, then you need at least a 1300 on your SATs, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But when we go over the Cal States, we will go over that as well. So like I mentioned, the biggest difference is that tuition is a lot cheaper at a Cal State. Tuition at a Cal State is $5,742 a year. So obviously that is a lot cheaper than a UC. But also, when we go back to talk about prestige, UCs have a higher prestige/reputation than a Cal State, because it is known that it's harder to get into a UC. When you do apply places, they do compare that. But an education is an education, and the other difference I want to talk about is the majors that are offered. At a UC, they only offer broad majors, as opposed to a Cal State, they offer specific majors. What I mean by that is, for example, at UCs, you have the broad majors, which is like sociology, which is what I majored in. You have engineering, you have history, you have anthropology, while at CSUs, you could actually major in recreation, parks and recreation, human resources, specific things, specific job tracks. So that is 2 major differences in the UCs and CSUs. Well, That wraps up. Actually, no, it does not. Okay, so the public versus private debate is mostly based on obvious preference and ideas generated by what is and what isn't. So make sure that you obviously do research on admissions and school environment before you rule anything out. So this is just information that I'm giving you all, and if you are interested in a specific school, don't rule it out just because you heard me say something that you may not like, because every school obviously will take every person on an individual basis. So financial aid is a big piece. Sometimes a private school may offer you more financial aid than a CSU, even though a CSU is cheaper to attend. Sometimes a private school will give you more money, so then you don't end up owing anything. So there's so many things that you have to keep in mind when deciding on what school to go. I know you all are in middle school and it's not too early to start thinking about it, because you want to prepare yourself now to really start those study habits so that when you get to high school, when your grades really count, that you are working towards the GPA and getting involved in clubs for the university that you really want to attend. All right, so that was it for this presentation of public versus private schools. Please make sure you do the Kahoot, and I hope you all learned something today. Don't forget to put your full name on the Kahoot so that I know that you did it. All right, y'all, see you next time.